Hello everybody and thank you for joining me. This is Sierra from Sierra T Designs and today I have the first of my Christmas in July series. So let's jump right in. So I'm going to start with the background. I have a piece of distressed watercolor cardstock here and I just misted it with a little bit of water. And then I'm going to bring in it's about 5 colors of distress sprays. So I have Salvaged Patina Distress Ink Spray, which I've used just right here with Distress Mica Spray in Snow Flurries and Winterberry. Now you can't get Snow Flurries and Winterberry anymore. They came out at Christmas last year. They were a limited release, but any colors would work here. I'm just going for a very pink and blue background. And then I am going to also bring in, after I've dried it here, and I do dry between the layers, I wanted those first 3 colors to blend and then for a second layer. And I brought in a piece of paper towel as well off camera and just dabbed off the little bit of ink that was pooling on the edges there so that it wouldn't dry there because I was too impatient to wait for it to dry. So I'm not going to show you that, but I have dabbed that off. And then here I brought in Spun Sugar and Salvaged Patina in their Oxide inks. So this is just going to go over top of this spray stains really nicely, and they're not going to blend. I did add a little bit of water just to get my oxides to oxidize, but otherwise there's no blending in these colors because I dried them. So because of that, they just are going to lay on top and just add kind of a nice cool color on top of the other colors. And then it kind of also makes it a little more patchy over the mica sprays. So you still get that shimmer in the background, but it's not quite as intense, which I thought looked really neat. And then I brought in, so now the background is completely dry. I brought in the Scrapbook.com Snowflakes stencil and some iridescent Glitz glitter gel, and I just have my little palette knife there, and there is leftover pixie spray on the back of this stencil from when I used it last time I used it, which was probably around Christmas time, but there still is a little bit on there, so I am going to hold it just to make sure it doesn't shift, but there is pixie spray on the back kind of holding it in place for me as well. And then I just spread it across. There's no, it wasn't perfect. There are a few areas that are a little thinner than others, a few areas that are a little thicker, but I kind of like that variation. Like, this is the background, this isn't a focal, so I kind of like that there's variation in how the texture paste went down and how thick it is in some areas. So I think that's kind of neat. So here you go. You can see that I've covered it all. And then I took that stencil to the sink and washed it right away. I don't like my glitter gels or any of the gels, any pastes to stay on my stencil very long. So I like to put them in warm water right away. And then I brought in a piece of, I'm going to call it champagne glitter cardstock. This is just out of my stash. I'm not even sure if you can get it anymore. I'll have something linked that's similar down below, but I trimmed it down to be about 1/8 of an inch smaller than my A2 base. And then for my card panel, I'm going to trim it down to be about 1/4 of an inch smaller than my A2 base so that it gives me just a very thin border all the way around. I love that look. I like to have a really thin border. I think it's really eye-catching, but you could make it as big or as small as you want it to be. And then on that same champagne glitter cardstock panel, I'm going to run it through my Gemini with the Lawn Fawn Stitched Snowflakes dies. So there's 5 dies in that, and I leave mine attached. You could, of course, detach them and cut them separately. I just find it easier to cut all 5 at the same time. I mean, in this card, I intend to use all 5 regardless. So if you only wanted to use one, I mean, you could, of course, detach them, but I'm going to use all 5. So I just trimmed them out, and then here you can just see I'm popping it out gently behind the glitter cardstock because I am using this as my mat. So I want it to be really careful. I don't want to rip anything with it, and it came out beautifully. Now you can't see the stitch detail really well in it, but it is there and I can see it. Sadly, the camera didn't really pick up the stitching in the snowflakes, but I can see it and I know it's there and I think it's beautiful, so it works. And then I brought in the Tim Holtz Stacked Tiles rectangle die. This is the 3rd one in one of the sets of those, and I am cutting out 2 pieces of vellum that are going to create my sentiments piece. So I wanted vellum for my sentiment so that I didn't have to cover up the background, but I really wanted there to be 2 layers of vellum, so I cut out 2 of the squares and I'm going to adhere them together here in a minute. And then I just showed you my cool Spellbinders Diamond. It sits beside me when I create, and all of my small dies, I go and stick them there so I know where they are. I just thought that was neat, and it's new to me, so I thought I'd show you guys because I think it's pretty cool. And then for my sentiment, I brought in the Tim Holtz, this is the, you know what, I don't even remember. It's like the mini, Oh, sorry. Tim Holtz Bold Tidings Mini. There we go. I bought it at Christmas last year. It came out and I didn't get to use it because it didn't come to me in time to use it for Christmas last year. So I am using it now and it's a great stamp set. I'm really excited about it. And I just white heat embossed it on one of my squares of vellum. And I am holding that vellum with some metal tweezers there. I mean, heat transfers, so be careful. But I knew that it was vellum and it would heat up really quickly. And I preheat my tool as well. So there was no concern with burning my fingers, but I did then bring in my Xyron sticker maker, and I'm just going to make my little vellum pieces into stickers. This is how I'm going to adhere them together. They're small enough that they can run through my little Xyron guy. I only have this tiny one. He's great though for when I want to adhere vellum together. And I have a fan blowing behind me, so you can see things kind of shift along my desk there. It's kind of funny, but and then I just adhered that layer together, and then I'm going to run it through the Xyron once again so that it can be how I mount this to my card base. Because it's vellum, I mean, you could put glue behind the letters and hide it that way. That would absolutely work. But if you want kind of a better, or not a better necessarily, but easier way to do it, making it into a sticker certainly helps. And then I brought in that's just the rub-on tool that Tim Holtz makes for like transfers, those rub-on transfers. That's that tool. I just used it to kind of get the glue to adhere to the back, and then it kind of stops it from being all over the edge as well. And then I'm going to kind of work on how I want my card to look. You saw there kind of I had it laid out with a general idea of how I wanted the layout to look. Sometimes I struggle a bit with my layouts, and this one was one of them a little bit. I'm not sure why I struggled with this one, but I just couldn't quite figure out where I wanted things. And then I dropped one of my snowflakes as I was trying to adhere it. So of course it put glue everywhere that I didn't need it. So it was just, this card was a bit interesting as it was coming together, but we got there in the end. So I'm going to adhere my layers together here. And I do this kind of quickly because there are those snowflake holes in the background of this one panel. So I don't really put it down back on my desk there. I hold it up and I add some glue to it once I've kind of lined up my panel. And then I'm going to line it up on the base so that any glue that seeps out of those holes in the mat can just go onto the base and not all over my desk. I mean, it really doesn't matter. I get glue on my glass mat all the time. This was just me attempting to not have glue all over the place. And I do bring in my Misty just to weigh down my card panels as they adhere. And then now I've kind of laid out everything how I think I want it, and I'm going to just adhere it flat down with my Nuvo Deluxe glue. It does struggle to adhere a little bit. There is quite a bit of texture on this background. With that glitter paste and all those sprays and all that. It didn't really want to adhere. So I'm going to bring in some acrylic blocks to help all of the snowflakes stay down as it adheres. It does take it a little bit of time, but I think that it worked out pretty well in the end there. You're only going to see me bring in one of my acrylic blocks, but once I had everything adhered down on, this is the snowflake I'm going to drop to here. Check this out. It's going to happen in like any second. Yep, there we go. Oh boy. Yeah, so I got glue all over the other snowflake and whatnot. It worked out fine. I just wiped it off with my finger. It's not a big deal. It's just glue, but it's just funny how sometimes everything can go really well, and I make a card and I'm super excited about it. And then every once in a while I'm making a card and it doesn't go quite the way I'm thinking it's going to go, and this was one of those. So it was just kind of funny. But I do bring in another acrylic block once I have all of the snowflakes down, and I just set them on top of all of the snowflakes across the whole panel. You could bring in the Misty for this as well, like I had done for getting the layers to adhere, but I had the acrylic block sitting on my desk because I'd used it to stamp the sentiments. So it was already sitting there, so I just brought in some more and weighed them down until I was happy. And then of course I have to add pearls. So I brought in my Arctic Breeze pearls and I kind of placed them across the panel there. I believe there's 9 on this one. I put one in the center of each snowflake and then a couple more scattered across the card just because I love how they look. This card really is just kind of my love of everything shiny. I love snowflakes and I love glitter and I love shine and I love, blue and pink together. I think that they look really pretty. So this card is kind of like an ode to my love of all things shiny. So I love how it came together. I'm pretty excited about it, but I'm going to hold it up here so you guys can check it out in all of its glory. I'd love to know what you guys think. If you have any thoughts on this card and you want to tell me what you think of the Christmas cards coming. It is Christmas in July, so there will be mostly all Christmas cards. Not all. I do have some commitments I have, but mostly all Christmas cards this month, so that'll be really exciting. So I'd love if you'd leave me a like, leave me a comment, and consider subscribing if you haven't already. I do new videos every Monday and Thursday. Thank you so much, guys, and I will see you again very soon. Bye-bye for now.